Listen. Listen to the words of three men flying around the moon.
We are now approaching lunar sunrise, and for all the people back on Earth, the crew of Apollo 8 has a message that we would like to send to you.
Well, Apollo 8 originally was an Earth orbital mission exercising the lunar module, but the lunar module was way behind.
We had intelligence information that the Russians were going to put a man around the moon probably in December of 1968.
The people in NASA had come up with the idea of moving Apollo 8 to a lunar orbital mission.
Why don't we send the command service module of Apollo 8 to orbit the moon, and we can learn a lot about the communication system, the navigation system, how the moon's gravity would affect the orbiting spacecraft, look for suitable landing spots.
So we had to condense into 4 months what usually took a year to 18 months of training. Everybody was motivated. Everybody was dedicated. And the basic idea was to beat the Russians to the moon. That was a political goal that was set by President Kennedy, and we were all determined to beat it.
Apollo 8 developed a lot of attention. It filled a big square in preparation for later Apollo flights.
Well, I got into the big Saturn V. This would be the first time that man had actually launched on a Saturn V. So I thought to myself after this 4 months of heavy training, I said, you know, I'm actually going to go to the moon.
The engines are on. 4, 3, 2, 1, 0.
Well, the Saturn V still is the most powerful machine ever made, and for 17 missions, it flew perfectly.
We have cleared the tower.
We had orbited the Earth, first of all, to check our spacecraft out. Then, when everything was fine and the spacecraft looked fine to go to the moon, we lit the third stage for a second time.
Trajectory and guidance are go, over.
We could actually coast all the way to the moon.
And after a while, you could look back and see the Earth getting smaller and smaller.
Apollo 8, this is Houston. Roger, good to hear your voice.
People on Earth tend to call the far side of the moon the dark side, but that's a misnomer. On our flight, the moon was between the Earth and the sun, and the far side was lit by the sun.
We saw the far side. You know, we're like three school kids looking into a candy store window, I guess, just staring at the unnamed craters as they slowly passed us by.
We were busy shooting pictures of the lunar surface for lunar landing sites for upcoming lunar landings. And then suddenly I looked out the window and here was this gorgeous orb coming up, and I thought, holy moly.
And there over the lunar landscape was the Earth. The Earth was beautiful. It was the only thing in the whole universe that had any color.
I had fought to have a long lens and color film. I didn't have a light meter, just banged off a dozen or so pictures, changing the f-stop each click.
I put my thumb up to the window of the spacecraft, and I could completely hide the Earth behind my thumb. The Earth is a mere speck in the Milky Way galaxy. Look what we have here. Water and an atmosphere. We're orbiting a star just at the proper distance to absorb that star's energy. God has given mankind